Welcome to Doing the Work, a Naples Integrated Recovery podcast. My name is Brian, and this space is for anyone who's tired of surviving the same emotional and behavioral loops, whether that's anxiety, trauma, addiction, or problems in your relationships. Around here, we cut the surface level advice and sugarcoating, no platitudes or bumper sticker wisdom. We focus on clarity, responsibility, emotional discipline, and the courage to look at yourself honestly so that you can stop repeating old patterns and start living with intention instead of reaction. Let's get into it. Today, I am talking about something that nearly every human struggles with, but a lot of people don't name: our addiction to certainty or predictability. Not in a burn your life down kind of way, but in the way that shapes how we make decisions, how we react to stress, and what shows up in our relationships. We are wired to want answers and to want resolution. We want predictable reactions, clear outcomes, and to know that we are doing life right. And then when life throws us a curveball, or someone doesn't respond to our text messages, or when the future is unclear, or a plan starts to fizzle out, not knowing can feel unbearable. You may notice it as a tightness in your chest, or some sort of an urgency that something needs to be resolved immediately. And that is withdrawal from certainty. So many of us rush towards anything that would give us relief, premature conclusions, a story that we tell ourselves, forced decisions, or even outright self-sabotage so that we are in control. And the goal isn't truth, it's safety. Because at the end of the day, certainty feels like safety, and uncertainty feels like danger. Except that's not actually true. It's just what your nervous system has been trained, or what your nervous system has learned. So if you have been through trauma or relational wounds, if you've lived in the chaos of a dysfunctional or alcoholic household, or if you've lived with a household that had instability or years of white knuckling through life, uncertainty doesn't feel like discomfort, it feels like a threat. So to understand why uncertainty hits so hard, let's look under the hood, not just with the psychology, but the neurobiology. Have you ever described yourself as a control freak? Part of why we chase certainty is because the brain treats ambiguity and the unknown like danger. So this is a real life version of what that science looks like. Your brain survives by predicting what is going to happen next. And when it has enough information, dopamine fires in a rhythm that the nervous system can track. The anticipation leads to action, leads to the outcome, and that is efficient and stabilizing. But if something feels uncertain, the brain hits what neuroscientists would call a prediction error, meaning the world is no longer matching your internal model of what you're expecting, and that is metabolically expensive. It makes the brain feel unsafe. So the limbic system, the part that's wired for survival, kicks in quickly. Your cortisol levels rise to prepare you for a threat. The amygdala starts searching for danger to explain this ambiguity. And then dopamine drops because the reward system can't predict an outcome. The prefrontal cortex, which I've talked a bit about being like your braking system, the part of you that makes good decisions, goes offline or starts to dim. And that is why you may be reactive or panicked or impulsive in those moments of uncertainty. It's not a character flaw, it's part of your wiring, it's neurobiology. Impairment is not doing the wrong thing, but it's losing the ability to tolerate the space between your impulse and the outcome. Uncertainty widens that space. A healthy brain can sit in it, but an overwhelmed or a wounded brain tries to close it immediately, and that is why people catastrophize, jump to worst case scenarios. Some might choose to drink to the point of being numb, or they may procrastinate or freeze, and it's why people in recovery often will fall backwards into relapse or old patterns during transition, not because they want chaos, but because chaos felt more predictable or familiar. The bottom line, that uncertainty is stressful, not because of the content, but because the brain has lost its predictive rhythm. Uncertainty is a metabolic event. So today, doing the work isn't just psychological, it's neurological. How to teach your nervous system that not knowing is survivable. Long before we had brain scans that measured dopamine spikes or theories that explained prediction error, there is a tradition in Zen that understood something fundamental about the mind, that the logical mind is brilliant at building prisons and terrible at showing you a way out, which is why the concept of Zen koans exists, and they were never meant to be solved. They weren't puzzles that reward cleverness, but they are mind disruptions, pressure points meant to overload the part of the mind that insists on certainty, coherence, and control. So a koan is designed to make your usual operating system crash. A perfect example of this, if you've seen the movie The Matrix, is when he goes to visit the Oracle. There is a child monk who is bending spoons, and Neo tries to understand the mechanics of how the kid is doing it, and he's still approaching reality with the logic that had kept him trapped inside the Matrix. So the child tells him, "Do not try to bend the spoon, that's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth. There is no spoon." And for a moment, Neo's mind stalls. The gears grind, because now there is something that has been jammed inside them, and his old framework can't compute what he's hearing. So it's that exact moment of an internal disorientation that opens this psychological doorway that Zen is pointing at for centuries. The goal is not to deny reality, it's to expose how your suffering comes from mistaking mental constructs for reality. So a koan forces you into that same mental freefall that he experienced in that moment. It's a collapse of your familiar map of how you understand the world. This would also be called a paradigm shift. A disorientation that isn't a failure, but a preparation. Because once your old framework dissolves, something else can become possible. A mind that isn't stuck or doesn't cling to old beliefs. A mind that is curious instead of controlling. A mind that has the ability to sit with uncertainty without demanding resolution. So, this is what Zen would call a don't know mind, a posture that says, I don't know. And I love this. I got a couple of t-shirts for me and my mom of this. It looks like an emoji with the arms up, like, I don't know. And the purpose being, I don't need to force an answer before one arrives. I'm learning to sit in that uncertainty. And that's not about just being passive, it's about the beginning of cognitive freedom. Because once you stop insisting that the spoon behaves a certain way, you notice the reality underneath it, not the projection that you've been arguing with. So this don't know mind is the psychological version of Neo's shift from trying to bend the spoon to realizing that the spoon never existed, and the spoon was never the thing that needed bending, it was his mind. That's where change starts. This leads me to a story from the Zen tradition, Chiono and the Broken Pail. So to cut the fluff and just give you just the mechanics of it, Chiono was a nun who was training for years under a Zen master, and despite all of her devotion, she never felt like she was any closer to any kind of an awakening. One night, as she was walking under the moonlight, she was carrying water in an old bamboo pail, and the bamboo strip that was holding it together snapped, the bottom fell out, and the water spilled out, and the moon's reflection that was in the water disappeared. In that moment, something broke open inside of her. Not because she understood a new concept, but because the illusion that she had been carrying finally collapsed. Symbolically, the pail is the fragile container of self, the identity that you have worked so hard to keep together, and the moon's reflection is the world as you perceive it, filtered through your beliefs, your defenses, and your survival strategies. So the breaking is the ego collapse, the moment when your strategy stops working. And the insight is what emerges when you stop fighting the breakdown. So enlightenment didn't come from effort, it came from when everything else fails, which is exactly how change works in real life. Very few of us grow through practice and mastery. A lot of us find that entry point for growth through pain and through collapse. Somewhere around 7 years ago, I had my own pail breaking moment. Not in a monastery, but in my hot tub, actually. And I was about 2 months sober after a 15-year battle with addiction, trying to figure out who I was going to be in this next chapter, and everything collapsed all at once. I was demoted. I was publicly humiliated. I went through an internal affairs investigation where there was poor due process, and I was humiliated with a reassignment, and tons of newspaper articles that were really distorted, really slanted, and no way to respond to any of it or to defend any of it, no way to correct the record, and no one on my side. I think that's what really hurt, was that I didn't feel like I had anyone on my team at the agency with it, and I felt completely alone. My identity, my career, and my sense of control, everything evaporated, and that was when the bottom fell out. And so there I was, fully sober, raw, and stripped of any kind of structure that I had ever leaned on to define myself. People talk about awakening like it's peaceful, but mine was disoriented, filled with shame, rage, grief. I took a picture of the blood pressure cuff. It was pre-stroke high. I was spitting up blood from my guts twisting. And in that space, something formed. An opportunity to rebuild from the inside out. No facade, no armor, no illusion of control. Everything that I teach now in trauma work, addiction recovery, emotion mastery, relational healing, everything started in that collapse. And so here is a beautiful truth. Clarity often only arrives after something has broken. So collapse is not failure. It's a forced reset of your prediction system. It's the moment that the brain realizes, I was doing something that wasn't working, and that's where real growth can begin. For some people, uncertainty becomes the doorway into faith. Not necessarily religious faith, but faith in meaning or in things happening in the right time, or even having a shape when you couldn't see an outline. So I like the concept of amor fati, love of fate, not something that you would see in a Hallmark card, but in a real gritty, honest sense that says, this moment, even this one, is an important part of my path, even if I don't understand it. Meaning doesn't usually show up in real time. It reveals itself later after you've lived your way into a bigger perspective. So, if the idea of a higher power doesn't resonate for you, that's totally okay. You don't need theology to find meaning. You just need to have willingness to stop fighting the moment that you're in, and to stop demanding certainty as the price of peace. So how do you practice this? How can you train your brain to tolerate uncertainty without predicting into collapse or panic or compulsive fixing? Here's the answer. You practice by noticing the craving for certainty the moment that it appears. The next time that you feel that angst, that you feel your chest or your throat tighten or wherever you feel that, the next urge that you have to text or, oh my goodness, I am so guilty of being a lifelong over-explainer that I just want people to understand me. Or that you notice that you are wanting to demand clarity or make a premature decision or rush to interpret somebody else's silence, just pause. Name it. There's my craving for certainty. There's no shame or judgment. It's just a recognition, just honesty. And then, this is the part that people really don't do. Sit with the question. Let yourself be confused by it. Allow that to soften you, and let the nervous system relearn that ambiguity is not lethal. You're training your brain to stay online when that prediction error hits. So this is neuroplasticity. It's where koans are pointing to. It's what the nun Chiono learned with her broken pail, and what I learned when my whole life collapsed. Learning to walk forward when you can't see a path. That is spiritual work, psychological work, and neurological work all tied up into one. So, no more water in the pail, no more moon in the water, and maybe, finally, something real can begin. Thanks for spending the time with me. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with somebody who may need to hear it. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others around you. Remember that we're all doing the best that we can with the tools that we currently have, and we are all capable of growing past them. If you'd like to reach out or connect, send me an email, brian@naplesintegratedrecovery.com. I hope to hear from you there. And in the meantime, thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.